Okay, we've transferred from the fabrication department. Now we're in the paint shop. Magic, the magic of movie making. And now we're ready for details. I put a little more, some more extra details on here. Put a switch on here. I put a release for the clip here, and I kind of cleaned up these a little bit. But I'm going to give you some basics of how to block it and prep it for paint. All right. So now that you got everything kind of laid out, you want to clean up all of your problem spots. Like obviously, there's gonna be some seams and some separations. You can see that there's a like a hole here that you want to fill in. You want to clean up any defects and make sure it's nice and smooth, so that it's ready to accept the paint. I'm going to give the gun a texture, so it almost feels Parkerized or almost like a cast iron in certain spots. So what I like to use is this stuff called by Rust-Oleum called hammered. It's Hammerite, which gives it kind of like a I don't know if you can see that, kind of a bumpy texture, which gives it a little bit more depth in the detail, to give it a variation of sheen. What we're going to do next is go to one of my favorite friends in the business, Bondo. All right, Bondo is an auto body filler that you can use. It's a polyester-based filler that's great for filling in spots or even building stuff. So we take a little bit of this. It's pretty stinky, but it's a lot of fun. So we take about that much. You want to do about 5 to 10%, depending on how fast you want this material to kick, which means when I say kick, I mean harden. What I do is usually put about 10 to 15% of a blob next to it. And since we're kind of speeding this up, you can slow it down as long as there's a little bit in here. I wouldn't go less than say 8 to 5%. But this is probably good for what we're going to do. So I'm going to take this and we'll mix it together because I want it to kind of go off fast. Usually got about 5 minutes of working time. You can change it, but 5 minutes of working time, and probably in about 10 minutes it gets like block cheese. It gets kind of hard, and you can shave it. And there's some steps that I'm going to go through to show you how to manipulate this material. So I've already pre-patched a few of the spots on here, but I saved a few also so that we can do this. So there's a gap inside here. So what I want to do is just kind of fill that. You just kind of backfill it. And these little spatulas are nice. These are little dental spatulas that you can get at a dental supply house. Or you can use a piece of cardboard or a stick. Pretty much anything that you can get a hold of. These here on the sides, I want to fill these so that it looks more dimensional. So we kind of backfill those. Take that off. Now, don't worry about getting it all over the place as long as you come back and you take it off. But what you want to do is let it harden enough so you can actually just pick it off of some of the problem spots. This always kind of irritated me. It's kind of unclean here along the top. So what I want to do is I'm going to backfill that also. So you just put that in there and do like a fillet. Obviously, the cleaner you get it on, the easier it is later to clean up. But don't worry about if it doesn't go everywhere you want it to, because you can always go back. This is the heavier part of the patching process. We'll also use spot putty like along here, along our seams, so that there's no separation to give away the illusion. You want to go in with some spot putty later. So clean that up real nice. Okay, see if there's any more spots. I cleaned this up last night. You want to kind of make a mental note of where all of your spots are, because once it hardens, it's kind of hard to manipulate. So we might want to clean that up a little bit more later. What's nice, these if you work in silicone, silicone is something else that that we'll probably discuss later for making molds. A lot of times when you make silicone, there's a bucket, and this is left in the bottom. You can make great Bondo pads because the stuff, nothing sticks to it and it peels right off. Now, while that's starting to set up, it's nice to keep your Bondo nearby because you can check it from time to time and see how it's starting to set up. It's starting to gel a little bit. It's not as creamy anymore. It'll start to stiffen. This is spot putty. This is great for, this is air dry. You don't have to mix it two part or anything like that. But this is kind of cool for doing the little touch-ups that the Bondo might be too much for. So like along here, along the seam where the two parts join to each other, you can get the Bondo at your hardware store. The spot putty, you might have to go to an automotive place to get automotive store to get it. But it's red. It comes in green and white too. And what you want to do is just kind of seam that along your edges, like so. And what that does is it just fills in any little holes that might be in there. It's good for going over your Bondo that you already did. And any little weird spots that you might find. So this is plywood. I don't want it to look like plywood, so I want to fill this. And you want to get it as thin as possible because it's really not a filler, so to speak, like the Bondo is, because it's you want to go as thin as possible because it takes a while to dry, but when it's thin, it dries pretty fast. It's more of a finishing technique. See how our Bondo is coming along. All right, now you can see it's kind of stiff. I can still kind of push it around. It's kind of lumpy now. You want it to get to the consistency of like block cheese, so it's easy to shave. So you can take your razor blade and just kind of shave it away where you don't want it, and it'll just flake off. And you can actually model it. Now, you've got a time limitation on this stuff that you want to hurry up with it. So this will be kind of cleaned up. So you cut along your two-dimensional, your lateral and your horizontal lines, and that cleans up the piece. It'll stay in the low spots, which is what you want. You don't have to get it perfect the first time out because you're going to go back in and sand it out. So just on these little parts is very time consuming to have to clean these up. But if you press it in to like low spots, it should stay in and the excess should flake off. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now this stuff is almost dry. When it goes like a solid color, you want to take about, you got our little sanding pads. I got 100 grit on one side, and I got like a 220 on the other side for finishing. So 100 is a little bit harsh for the spot putty, but we're going to go with the 220 just to knock it down because it's super lightweight and it shaves real easy. You just want to polish that out. It's not 100% ready yet, but you want to kind of haze it. You want to haze it out so that it kind of feathers in. You want a nice smooth transition between your patch and your piece, and that'll ensure that it's a smooth transition, and make sure that the illusion is proper here. So I'm just going to go around and take care of a few of the problem spots. Like here, I want to. That's a little harsh, so I can use the 100, knock that out like that, and then polish it with the 220. There's a little bit of something on there. Okay. Another part of patching is fabricating miscellaneous pieces. I've already like dropped these pieces in here, and I saved the piece to show you how that works. You can take measurements if it's square, or you can use something like this as a copycat, which is what I used for any difficult shapes and stuff like that. You can get these. You got to kind of look around for them. They're kind of hard to find. But say if I want this shape here, what I can do is actually press this into the shape here, and that will give me an impression, a rough impression, that I can make, say, like a piece like this from. So I take a piece of styrene plastic here, kind of lay it out, and draw out the dimensions, get a rough shape for it. Then I can cut and, let me see, this is the top side. You can see how it just kind of drops in there like that, which makes it real nice. Now, I already made 2 of them, so let's see which one goes where here. All right, this has got a little bit of an angle on it, slightly different. So how I'm going to attach these, which is like what I did here, which is kind of backstepping slightly, is I want these to key into this spot here. So what I'm going to do is I take my Sino here, and you want to just kind of pre-buff the surface. You can use sandpaper or a piece of Scotch-Brite like this, and you just kind of tear it up a little bit, which ensures that the glue will stick and not pop off on you. And then we just want to kind of this is the basic fundamentals of any model making, is manipulating parts and materials in order to create the effect. Okay. Now it's going to overhang a little bit like this, but that's okay, because what you can do is I purposely made it a little bit larger so I can go back in and trim it. So I just kind of follow my blade along the edge. Now it won't work if you've got a lot of material on there. And be careful because you're drawing towards yourself. Make sure to wear your safety glasses. And you just kind of gently chisel it down, followed by following the line. Once you get it low enough, then you can go in with your file, with your like 100 grit, and kind of knock that down. So that it's ready, so that basically it fills in that void there, and then you can come in with your spot putty and clean that up like that.